entities, and the health, Fulton County is also another entity you need to really address. All right. Well, we're going to go down the list, and so we'll talk about that process as we go down the list. Mr. Tam, who's next?
Matthew Cardinale.
Hi, everybody. I'm Matthew Cardinale, the news editor of Atlanta Progressive News. I have some supplemental documents to support my presentation today, and let me just, Ms. Winslow, can I give you the four? And okay, thank you so much. Okay, I happen to have just enough. I am here on behalf of Atlanta Progressive News to request that Chairwoman Joyce Sheperd of this CDHR committee, that you request an ethics investigation into Debi Starnes, the mayor's policy advisor on homelessness. I'll be speaking to this issue, as will Joe Beasley, who's also here to speak on this, and I would ask that at the end of Joe's comments, if you could respond. As I previously testified before CDHR, Central Atlanta Progress, Debi Starnes, and other city officials conspired to drive the Metro Atlanta Task Force for the Homeless out of downtown, including using city resources to organize private lobbying campaigns, address private funders to cut off private funding, as well as public funders, lobbying the media, pushing for the foreclosure, and all of this was discussed 3 weeks ago. What you have before you are pages from Debi Starnes' deposition. I'll go through this very quickly. If you go to the second page, you'll see a highlighted section. The question posed to Debi Starnes: now am I correct that what's happened with respect to the funding for your position is that you're still being paid for the work that you do? Is that correct? She nods her head affirmatively. But you are being paid from sources outside the city. The answer: United Way. Go to the next page. Question: are you aware of anybody who has designated funds to United Way to go towards your salary? Yes. The question is who? I've learned Central Atlanta Progress, she says, as well as a downtown hotel. She says she doesn't know which one. But then down, she says it was either the Marriott or the Hyatt or the Hilton. Central Atlanta Progress paid $40,000 towards her salary in 2009. $5,000 came from the hotel, and again, it was funneled through the United Way. You have a few more pages from her transcript. If you go to the second stapled part of this packet, you'll see her ethics disclosure for 2010 financial disclosure statement covering the 2009 period. On the first page, she checks that she's a city employee. She describes herself as a city employee here. This was just filled out this year. She checks off yes for city employment income. Then non-city employment income, she checks yes. She lists her consulting firm M-Star, but the private payments from Central Atlanta Progress and the hotel are not listed, and I circled where that should have been on number 2. We're aware, Ms. Sheperd, that we can request this investigation ourselves. However, we believe CDHR should exercise oversight. There are many unanswered questions, not only about Debi Starnes, but about preventing these conflict of interest from happening in the future. Why is the city's homeless czar getting paid by private firms who have an agenda to remove homeless men from downtown? Why didn't the council vote to accept this payment? Why was CDHR not made aware of these conflicts of interests? Why was Starnes allowed to be the city's homeless czar, while also running a private consulting firm, M-Star, with clients such as the United Way, benefiting from the funding recommendations she was making as homeless czar while on the United Way's payroll? That's a triple conflict of interest. We need answers. We were asking you, Ms. Sheperd, to show that you care about accountability and to request an investigation. And I'm happy to answer any questions and provide additional documentation or anything like that. Thank you.
What I would like to do is those questions you just talked about, could you present them to the committee also? I will tell you today that I'm not going to weigh in on this. I will find out. I will go into detail and find out more specifically in terms of this, in terms of what's happening, and come back to you to our next committee meeting to give you a report. But if you could provide those questions to me, I will do that for you. And I'll also talk to our legal department in terms of that.
Okay. All right. And I mean, I'll have to consult with Joe. This is, you know, and what we want to do. But I mean, I understand you might need some time, and I really appreciate you wanting to look into this.
All right.
Joe Beasley.
Ms. Sheperd. I'm Joe Beasley. I reside at 87 Peachtree Street. I'm here to back up what has already been said. Debi Starnes, who carries herself as a czar for the city of Atlanta, is actually being paid by a private entity. In fact, I would go so far as to say that that the money is being laundered, is being put up by the business community, Central Atlanta Progress, and then laundered through the United Way and funneled into the city for Debi Starnes to carry on her campaign to try to close down the task force for the homeless. She's used her position to deny funding, HUD fund, first city funding, then state funding, and then HUD funding. And so it's a diabolical situation. I spoke to, I know that we got a new mayor, and I think she's still there in our office because I inquired and a number of city people, and she's still working here as a czar. I went over to try to talk to the mayor. He was not available at the moment. But we believe that Debi Starnes, who carries herself as a City of Atlanta employee, is in fact being paid by the United Way and in a diabolical scheme to close down the task force for the homeless. And really, quite frankly, I think it's racketeering. I did stop by the district attorney's office, and I'm going to be following up on that to see if, in fact, that money is being collected by the business community with the express purpose of closing down the task force for the homeless. I've read the deposition of A.J. Robinson, about 500 pages, and his cohorts. And so there's been a scheme that's been going on now for a number of years to close down the task force for the homeless, starve the money out. And so we would hope you would support us and look at this, and or go down to the task force for the homeless yourself and observe what's going on. Quite frankly, it's a discrimination. We're going to HUD because the majority of the people in that shelter, of course, is African-American men. And there was a decision made years ago that they want to sanitize Peachtree Street of black men, especially poor black men. And so we would hope that you would support us in taking this ethics investigation forward.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley.
Okay. Any questions?
As I said earlier to Mr. Matthews, is that I will look into all the questions you all brought before us today. By our next committee meeting, I will respond to all the information you have and also your questions, if you could give me your questions.
And what I would suggest, and I'll say this to Mayor directly, I'm going to say it directly, if she worked for the United Way, she'd be over there on Edgewood Avenue working, rather than sitting up in City Hall using the bully pulpit of this administration and of this government to carry on this kind of diabolical work.
Thank you.
Jerome Cunningham.